Hi, welcome to my studio. And today I wanted to show you how I usually go about painting a flower and discuss some of the ideas behind um, thinking about how eyes see things and then how we respond. And what you're going to find is that this is not uh, kind of a descriptive how-tos of how to paint a daffodil, but it's almost a way for you to learn to see what's going on inside of you. So I have these beautiful daffodils that just came out in my garden, and I um, planted these bulbs last fall, and they came out so magnificently right now. It's just filling my garden with beauty. And right now, as we are quarantined and we're hoping and praying for people, and it's always good to take a look outside of us because um, part of what happens when we are fearful about things is that we forget to look outside of ourselves. We get trapped inside, and we get very concerned about this and that, which, fear is good. I talked about how um, we should be careful and wash our hands and um, try to, protect ourselves from this virus that's going on. But at the same time, we should always pay attention to what is going on around us as well. So a daffodil is a typical spring flower that comes out. I planted these bulbs, clumped them together, and all of a sudden they came up and the ones on the outer layer were kind of stooped down and touching the ground. So I decided to cut some and bring it into my studio. And what I first like to do when I'm painting a flower is to just observe them. Um, you might think that an artist is trying to depict the flower as how they look, and if you go to school you learn how to paint, and you kind of learn how to paint a flower, but to me art is all about observing not just what's there, but observing what happens to your heart when you spend time to gaze upon the flower and to think about the beauty. So you notice first thing you see in a daffodil is that these outer petals, are very interesting. There are 6 of them, but if you look in the back, it's very clear that these 3, right, um, overlap with these 3. So there are 3 petals, right? 1, 2, 3 on the back, okay? And on the front, there are also 3, but they are staggered perfectly. So they create this even shape, right? And then there's this kind of like a trumpet in front, which is creating this extrusion into this the as if it's you can imagine it is like a trumpet. It's like creating visual effect into the world, like broadcasting itself, or maybe music, right? And I can look at this for a long time without even picking up a brush. uh, because what you observe is actually fascinating. Okay, so they're actually, you can think about mathematical principles, right? Because you have three overlapping with three, or you can think about, even in some religious terms, the Trinity, the three in one, one in three idea that Christianity talks about. Um, and even this idea of a flower projecting itself into the world and making a statement of some kind, right? If you think about it, it's amazing that you can go from looking at a flower, the Seattle flower, and thinking about what it projects into your heart and your soul. Another way of thinking about it is you um, think about memories that you might have of a flower that's been given to you, or flower that you remember somebody with, or maybe flower that you gave to somebody. And those things bring on memory of that person, that time, or that um, effort that you made to reach out to somebody, or maybe you received something from that person. And that may bring up some memories, or um, trigger some thoughts, right? And those are important when you're painting a flower, because all of those things can end up being part of your expression. So when I'm painting, I think about those things, and I consider the daffodil for a long time before I even pick up a brush. And today what I'm going to do is very simple. And remember I said about the three petals overlapping. And when you're painting, you want to kind of calculate beforehand what you're going to do with what you observed. So I'm going to start from the back three petals first, because then you can overlap. But I'm going to actually paint using not yellow to copy the painting, but I'm going to try to paint what's inside of me, the flower that I receive inside of me that is trying to come out. Okay, so I take a brush. I have many wonderful brushes like these in my studio, but it really can be any kind of brush. What's I think is important is paper. If you are serious about painting, or if that's important, and if you had to choose between spending money on the paint or brush or paper, I would spend it on paper. This paper is a wonderful paper that I got in Venice, Italy, when I was there last summer. And when you think about Venice, of course, you think about the crisis that Italy is going through right now. And so when I use paper from a region, I often think about where they are now and how connected I am with that region. And so it becomes a prayer for me to think about the people, the gentleman that I got this paper from. And I actually liked it so much that I emailed him after to have him ship some more paper because I loved it so much. It's beautiful pressed paper. Watercolor paper is pressed together in Europe. So you can get cold press or hot press. Hot press is smoother, and you can order these things online. But paper is wonderful because it speaks of that culture. It speaks of the beauty of refined beauty that each culture has. And today I'm gonna, as I said, I'm not going to try to depict the yellow of the flower, but I got this wonderful indigo ink online. I think I got it on Instagram, and I've been using them because I just like the feel of this, and you can, and a little drop goes a long way. And I want to tell you that you can use paint. You can certainly buy watercolor paint, and we should look for the type of paint that you want. But really, material is everywhere. There are things that you can use, like coffee or tea, you can use as paint. And part of my tradition of learning Nihonga, Japanese style painting, is to use what nature gives us, and anything is material, so you can go out and create, if you wanted to, paint from dirt if you wanted to. It takes a long time, so I wouldn't recommend it. And you have to create large batches to refine it, the color. But it's very different, right, from the commercial side of going into an art store and buying paint, and that's fine too. But I just want you to know that that's part of the process, is finding materials that are that you connect with, and I connect with this indigo ink. I love this ink, and also it happens to be very easy for you to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush which has been saturated in water. You can tell that it's been saturated because it even went into the bamboo here. It's been sitting overnight. And the reason why I do that is because I want the brush to be full of water and soft as it can be. And when I have a brush like this, I just picked up some indigo on the tip, but then good brush will always carry the indigo, and so what and then the water will stay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting, but as you can see, when I press the brush, it'll slowly ooze itself out. And I'm observing the leaf, but I'm also observing what's going on inside of me at the same time. And this takes a little bit of practice, of course. And artists are kind of people who love to do that, love to connect with what you're seeing, but also what's inside of you. So I'm gonna keep going here, and you can see a little bit, I think. And what I'm thinking of is how these shapes are connected. What I mean by that is there's a way in which these shapes that I'm painting relate to each other. So artists talk about positive shapes and negative shapes. So positive shape is what let's say the petal that I just drew. So the shape of this inside a petal, but also there's the negative shape, which is outside a petal, right? And they interact, and what I'm trying to do is create something, a movement of some sort, just like music. Art is very connected, paintings are very connected with music, and it allows for us to hear what you're looking at, which is kind of weird, but it is what happens when your senses are together. So when I come back, I'll let this dry and talk some more about this process. God bless you, and let's be makers together.